Throughout the night, the women were there, showcasing the illusion of their décolletages. As long as there was music, they glided across the hall, blowing kisses to the more timid patrons and casting surreptitious glances at the more seasoned ones. But as the hours waned, they departed, some in company, others alone, leaving behind the seduction of their perfumes and the memory of their swirling dresses. Now, the Bar dos Carmelitas, a boisterous café concert nestled on Moraes e Val Street in Lapa, grows increasingly deserted. Only a few lingering musicians still mingle with the waiters, who are busy collecting the scattered bottles and glasses from the tables. Dressed in a well-tailored navy blue suit, a white silk shirt, a tassel tie, and black high-heeled shoes, Manuel Jacinto Coelho emerges from the restroom where he had gone to wash his face, trying to stave off sleep and alleviate his fatigue. That night had been different for him, despite the routine. Throughout the time he had spent embracing the violin, entertaining bohemians, women, artists, politicians, journalists, rascals, and, most importantly, fools, much had transpired. For a few moments he had the strange sensation of leaving his own body, evaporating, then departing and discovering another world. Everything happened unexpectedly, uncontrollably, and, why not say, overwhelmingly. His body began to feel numb, as if anesthetized. He still reacted, taking deep breaths. He wanted to speak, to ask for help, but he couldn't. He seemed to float in the dense air filled with smoke and the myriad fragrances of the Bar dos Carmelitas. And although he knew something abnormal, very serious, new and different was happening, he was certain he had not lost consciousness as he continued to strum the guitar, keeping time with the samba of Ismael Silva, sung by a mulatto crooner, tall and strong, with a voice warm with lyricism and cognac. If you swear that you love me, I can reform, but if it's just to pretend, woman, I won't give up the orgy. Thus he remained for some time, adrift in space. Wanda, a friend of Olivia, a dancer at the Cabaret Royal Pigalle, after observing him, commented to Ceci, who would become in the future the great love of Noel Rosa. Look at Manuel, he must be feeling very romantic today. Ever since he started playing, he's had his eyes closed. Upon her companion's observation, Ceci merely smiled. Then she nodded her head in agreement. Those poor women of Lapa, so young, so beautiful, and so needy, were there every night, dragging their lives across the dance floor. More than a steady partner, a handsome and well-dressed gentleman to embrace them around the waist, in an elegant twirl to the rhythm of the song. They dreamed of a home, a husband, children, and a family. Each morning, however, they awoke from the dream, on the stained sheets of sin and the crumpled beds of the less reputable hotels on Conde Large Street, in their purses a few extra coins. On their faces, the marks of disappointment were evident. As the trance ended and the journey back concluded, Manuel Jacinto Coelho could not hide his bewilderment. Perplexed, he did not know what to do or even what to say. He could only imagine the end of that situation, that distressing, inexplicable state. It was then that a loud whistle invaded his ears, a deafening whistle, much like those emitted by radios before tuning in. Then, before his eyes, emerged the terrible images of the tragedy. Without wasting time, he looked for a chair and sat down. He heard the shots ring out. There were 4. He counted them one by one. Then came the screams of terror and the frantic rush in the cabaret. Men and women sought the stairs, desperate to escape. Some stumbled and fell, others did not. They ran and leaped over those who were on the ground. The tumult was widespread, panic set in. 3 of the shots had hit a man in a white suit. He moaned in pain and bent over, clutching his chest and belly. Soon, blood stained his suit and hands, further increasing his distress. Manuel strained to recognize the man, whose face was familiar to him. It was then that someone slapped him on the back, singing and interrupting his vision. My God, I walk with a hole in my shoe. I have a habit of dressing up. My bed is a piece of mat. An old can serves me as a chair. He recognized the samba and the voice. The samba was Cabide de Molambo by João da Baiana, an old friend, humorously depicting a miserable yet quite common type in the bars and bohemia of the city. The voice belonged to another companion, Aristides Júnior de Oliveira, the Moleque Diabo. So, Manuel, shall we go? The party's over. Moleque, I don't know what's happening to me. It's hard to explain. It was all very strange. What are you talking about, Manuel? I don't understand anything. Let's go, Moleque. I'll tell you everything on the way. Okay? We could stop by Capella and eat something there. All right, Moleque. Let's go there. With polished nails and a shower ring, wearing a light grey English tropical jacket, Aristides Júnior de Oliveira, known as Moleque Diabo, a nickname he earned for his unparalleled skills as a musician on any string instrument, quickly gets ready. He carefully places his imported mandolin in a black velvet case and signals to his companion. I'm ready, Manuel. Shall we go? At this hour, it's not difficult to find a seat in a restaurant, and the Largo da Lapa, seemingly impassable at the start of the evening, gradually becomes deserted. As the lights go out, Lapa is no less noisy nor less cheerful. The voices of its people can still be heard in the distance, emanating from bars, cafes, women's boarding houses, and also from cabarets. Those poor women of Lapa, so young, so beautiful, and so needy, were there every night, dragging their lives across the dance floor. More than a steady partner, a handsome and well-dressed gentleman to embrace them around the waist, in an elegant twirl to the rhythm of the song, they dreamed of a home, a husband, children, and a family. Each morning, however, they awoke from the dream, on the stained sheets of sin and the crumpled beds of the less reputable hotels on Conde Large Street, in their purses a few extra coins. On their faces, the marks of disappointment were evident. As the trance ended and the journey back concluded, Manuel Jacinto Coelho could not hide his bewilderment. Perplexed, he did not know what to do or even what to say. He could only imagine the end of that situation, that distressing, inexplicable state. It was then that a loud whistle invaded his ears, a deafening whistle, much like those emitted by radios before tuning in. Then, before his eyes, emerged the terrible images of the tragedy. Without wasting time, he looked for a chair and sat down. He heard the shots ring out. There were 4. He counted them one by one. Then came the screams of terror and the frantic rush in the cabaret. Men and women sought the stairs, desperate to escape. Some stumbled and fell, others did not. They ran and leaped over those who were on the ground. The tumult was widespread, panic set in. 3 of the shots had hit a man in a white suit. He moaned in pain and bent over, clutching his chest and belly. Soon, blood stained his suit and hands, further increasing his distress. Manuel strained to recognize the man, whose face was familiar to him. It was then that someone slapped him on the back, singing and interrupting his vision. My God, I walk with a hole in my shoe. I have a habit of dressing up. My bed is a piece of mat. An old can serves me as a chair. He recognized the samba and the voice. The samba was Cabide de Molambo by João da Baiana, an old friend, humorously depicting a miserable yet quite common type in the bars and bohemia of the city. The voice belonged to another companion, Aristides Júnior de Oliveira, the Moleque Diabo. So, Manuel, shall we go? The party's over. Moleque, I don't know what's happening to me. It's hard to explain. It was all very strange. What are you talking about, Manuel? I don't understand anything. Let's go, Moleque. I'll tell you everything on the way. Okay? We could stop by Capella and eat something there. All right, Moleque. Let's go there. With polished nails and a shower ring, wearing a light grey English tropical jacket, Aristides Júnior de Oliveira, known as Moleque Diabo, a nickname he earned for his unparalleled skills as a musician on any string instrument, quickly gets ready. He carefully places his imported mandolin in a black velvet case and signals to his companion. I'm ready, Manuel. Shall we go? At this hour, it's not difficult to find a seat in a restaurant, and the Largo de Lapa, seemingly impassable at the start of the evening, gradually becomes deserted. As the lights go out, Lapa is no less noisy nor less cheerful. The voices of its people can still be heard in the distance, emanating from bars, cafes, women's boarding houses, and also from cabarets. The two musicians make their way down the narrow, sinful sidewalks of Moraes e Valley Street, heading towards the infamous Beco dos Carmelitas, where the poet Manuel Bandeira lives. Sheltered by the shadows of the walls of old townhouses, they head to Largo da Lapa, where the tram curves and Capella is located, a restaurant that serves the best steak and fries in the city at a reasonable price. Their conversation becomes so engrossing that they fail to notice a drunk man arguing with his shadow under a gas street lamp nearby. You have to stop following me. What do you want from me? However, their walk is interrupted. Before Manuel's eyes, the face of the man in the white suit reappears, whose death scenes had been prematurely revealed to him back at the Bar dos Carmelitas. The musician shudders, stops, and turns pale. He begins to sweat coldly, his expression one of terror. Beside him, Moleque Diabo wants to know what's happening, but Manuel is unable to speak. The shot man no longer moans or shows signs of pain. He smiles and speaks in a mocking tone. Only Manuel hears. Didn't you want to know my name, Manuel? I'm here for that, to tell you who I am. Indeed, you know me from some carnivals. I've danced a lot to the sound of your guitar. Ask your friend, Moleque Diabo, to whom you've chosen to confide. My name is Octavio José Pinto, but in Lapa, in the circle of rogues, I earned a nickname, Meia-Noite. A loud laugh follows, and the face of Meia-Noite disappears. In the air lingers the French fragrance of the rogue's favorite perfume. On the ground, shining, lies a gold monogram with his initials. Close by, one of Meia-Noite's greatest friends, Miguelzinho Camisa Preta, so named for his exclusive wearing of black shirts, found himself in trouble. Brave and good in a fight, despite his small stature, standing at 1.64 meters tall and weighing 54 kilograms, he was being escorted out of the Cabaret Novo Mexico by a woman, Rosina, a former dancer, and fiercely jealous. She spared no effort in punishing her partner with pinches, insults, ear tugs, and shoves. Dominated by his heart, Miguelzinho showed no reaction. On the contrary, head down, he silently endured the beating. And as they waited for a taxi, Rosina's blows multiplied. She was furious. Across Avenida Memdesa, 8 sailors were thoroughly amused by the situation. They twisted in laughter and shouted to the woman from time to time, "Hit him more, he likes it. Hit him more, he likes it. Miguelzinho remained silent, waiting for a taxi. When the first one approached, he wasted no time. He dashed in front of it and stopped it. He quickly ushered the woman inside and said to the driver, "You can keep the engine running. I'll be right back." Indeed, he didn't take long. Agile as a cat, a master of capoeira, and a lord of cunning. He quickly placed his hands on the ground, knocking down the first 3. The other 3 were riled up, unable to believe what they were seeing. The result, they received the same treatment. Loose in space, hands on the ground, legs spinning in the air like windmill blades, Miguelzinho hit hard, overpowering his opponents. At the end of the fight, 5 of them were on the ground, in need of medical attention. The other 3, having realized that the fight was bad news, boarded the first breeze and sped down Avenida Memdesa towards Paseo Público. The singer Francisco Alves, Chico Viola, standing at the door of Leiteria Boy, was baffled. He asked composer Nilton Bastos, beside him, "Is there a ship on fire somewhere?" During the fight, Miguelzinho had dirtied the sleeve of his beige jacket, which didn't usually happen when he fought against 2, 3, or 4 opponents. So back in the taxi, he continued to be beaten. Under the pretext of, "I don't want you fighting in the street like a vagabond, dirtying the clothes I wash," Rosinia continued to punish her partner. She was determined at all costs to take her man away from that place, to distance him from the rogues, the bohemia, the cabarets, the boarding houses of the fallen, which she would achieve years later. "I saw the rogue dying, Molek. It was 3 shots. "Which rogue? Manuel. What madness is this? You need a doctor. This must be exhaustion. Try to get some more sleep and eat better." "Molek, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not sick nor delirious. What I saw wasn't a dream or a nightmare. It was a vision, foretelling an event, hence my concern. I'd like to prevent it, but I can't. I abhor bloodshed. I'm a musician, a man of sensitivity. Therefore, averse to any kind of violence, although I know it exists, especially here in Lapa." Molek Diabo couldn't hide his curiosity. He listened intently to Manuel's words. "My anoit is going to die soon, Molek. Who will kill him, I don't know, but he will be murdered. The vision I had, which left me in this state, foretold the scenes of the crime." At Manuel Jacinto Coelho's assertion, Molek stops. Skeptical of the revelations, he tries to convince him that they are not true, tangible. In his view, they were a hallucination, like so many others experienced by various people. "Manuel, you might get annoyed with me, but I don't believe in this crime story. Don't come to me with absurdities, things of the other world. I don't believe in spiritism, witchcraft, evil eye. I have a habit of working instead of praying. If I stay around praying, my God, grateful for the prayers, won't give me anything to eat. I put my faith in work. In fact, work has been my God and also my salvation. With this mandolin, I make music my prayer. Besides, my anoit has already abandoned this life of roguery, of bohemia. He's living with a woman, Arminda, there on Assis Carneiro Street in Piedade, and leading a quiet life as a family man. He's really reformed. Do you believe that, Manuel?" "I believe, as I also believe in what I saw." Molek Diabo smiles. It would be difficult to dissuade him from that idea, and he began to worry about his friend. Will Manuel continue having these hallucinations? He wondered to himself, in silence. Deep down, the story of Maya Noit's assassination had impressed him greatly, but he had decided he would stand firm and not give in. He knew that Manuel had a spiritualist tent, the Francisco de Assis spiritualist tent, there on Lopez de Cruz Street, 89, in Meye, and perhaps because of spiritism, he might not be in his right mind. For a moment, he even thought he should look for Meyanuate and tell him the whole story, but soon changed his mind, fearing he might seem ridiculous. Meyanuate wouldn't believe any of this, and would certainly even mock me. Manuel still asked Moleke Diabo to go look for Meyanuate, to warn him of the danger, but Molek was hesitant. "Manuel, drop it. I know Meyanuate well. When you finish telling him this story, he's going to laugh in your face. The man doesn't believe in God or the devil, but in the stove he always carries at his waist, and which has sent many a brave man from this life to the next." And it was true. White, brave and handsome, Meyanuate had become, in a short time, the most notorious killer Lapa had ever known. Convinced of his status as a rogue, he kept his word, always fulfilling what he had promised. He was authentic and had a lot of personality. He knew how to respect the weaker ones, didn't mess with other men's women, and only fought when provoked. He became beloved by the fallen women, feared by the police, and respected by the Bohemians. He dressed very well. During the day, he never did without a pure silk shirt or a neck scarf, wearing Panama mouth trousers and charlotte slippers. At night, he always donned an elegant light suit, preferably white, with pointed toe and high-heeled shoes. On his head, a Panama hat. He lived off card games, Ronda, 7.5, and English Monte, the preferred gambling modalities of the rogues. In his spare time, he made collections for the Bicho bankers Pascual and Alberto, both from Mangi. At night, he protected the cabarets, casinos, and women's pensions from the actions of troublemakers and also from bad payers, multiplying the revenue. Although he belonged to an excellent family, Meyanuate had entered the world of roguery very early, influenced by police films. He had not yet turned 16 and was already frequenting the worst dens of Katumbi, Mange, Prasawons, and also Lapa. He was responsible for more than 15 death crimes. The last one had a civil guard as a victim and occurred in Largo da Lapa. Taken to trial, he was acquitted, and from then on, he decided to abandon the life of roguery once and for all. He set up a haberdashery on Laura de Araujo Street in Mange and began to exploit, with good profits, the sale of bullets on the trains of Central do Brasil. For many, he was reformed, as even Moleke Diabo himself believed. During dinner at Capella, Manuel Jacinto Coelho still appeared restless, tense, and worried, and he recounted details of the crime that was going to occur. In this way, he sought to decidedly convince his friend to take him to Meyanuate's house. Moleke Diabo, however, remained unyielding. With the approach of Margot, a middle-aged, friendly, full-bodied Frenchwoman, they had to change the subject. Owner of one of the best women's pensions on Joaquim Silva Street, the Imperial, Margot seemed a true matron and was accompanied by Bianca, a beautiful woman, whom the Bohemians called Lily das Joias. Small and upright breasts, wasp waist, white and perfect teeth, clear and velvety skin, large and fleshy lips, Bianca had become famous for leading many big shots to ruin. She was the one who came forward, greeting the musicians. Then, turning to Moleke Diabo, she said, "How good it is to find you. I really need to talk to Celeste." Margot just asked about her. That was enough. Molek's face closed, clearly showing his discontent. He didn't hide it. He was in love with Celeste, a plump Portuguese woman with thick, round and hairy legs. She was a dancer at Avenida, but he had taken her home and thought of transforming her into his wife. But Bianca seemed determined to provoke him, perhaps out of envy of her friend who had managed to find a home, a family. Smiling, she insisted, "Remember Bia, the one who had a house on Joaquim Silva? She also got married, but it was to an American aviator, a tall, handsome, strong man, white and with blue eyes. She went to live in the United States and everything." Indignant, Molek didn't respond, but he got up from the table. He put his hat on his head and said goodbye to Manuel. "I'll look for you at the office. I'm not going to stay here putting up with this woman. I'm tired, sleepy. Better to go to sleep." As soon as Molek left, Bianca got up from the table. She pushed the chair, gave a snort, disapproving of Molek's behavior, and she murmured, "Just because he's a musician, he thinks he's the king of the world. Go ahead, let the devil take him." Then, she went to join Margot, who was sitting at another table. Remaining calm, Manuel Jacinto Coelho finished his dinner. Then, as if nothing had happened, he called the waiter and asked for the bill. After paying, he stood up, picked up his hat and guitar, and greeted the reporter Carlos Lacerda from Correio da Manhã, the one who would, years later, drive Vargas to suicide and become, even further in the future, a skilled and eloquent politician, and also governor. Finally, he took to the streets. He walked a bit, but before boarding for Maie, where he lived, he felt like having a coffee. He went to O Indígena, a meeting point for the communists and integralists of the time. There, chatting animatedly, as he observed, were some acquaintances: Agildo Barata, Plinio Salgado, Santiago Dantas, and the painter Candido Portinari. Still with dark brown hair was the journalist and writer Jorge Amado. He waved, greeting everyone, had his coffee, and left. He seemed recovered from the strange sensations he had felt, and the images of the tragedy no longer bothered him. He was light and purified, tranquil. Sleepiness and fatigue had disappeared. He felt like walking, observing people, seeking to help them. He felt like a happy man, complete, fulfilled. Even so, he decided to go home to rest. At 11 o'clock, he would be at the Itamaraty Palace on Rua Larga de São Joaquim, today Avenida Marechal Floriano, near Central do Brasil. He would return to his little life as an employee of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thinking about foreign relations, he smiled and said, "I have indeed been a man of foreign relations. Unlike Manuel, Molek Diabo would not find sleep in that late night and early morning." Thoughtful, he would roll in bed from one side to the other, consumed by anguish, sadness, and revolt. Pressing the pillow against his face, he would ask himself, why this story of crime? Could Manuel be sick? Were the hallucinations due to spiritism? And Mayanoit, was he really going to die? Another fact also tormented him: Margot looking for Celeste. So many women in life, and this madam looking for mine. Molek Diabo wished to forget all that and sleep a carefree sleep, free of worries, but he couldn't. He was impressed. He knew that in Lapa, with its easy money, tolerated casinos, consented prostitution, beautiful women, convicted rogues, and incorrigible bohemians, anything could happen. Swallowed by the darkness of the long, joyous nights, Lapa was devouring many people, annihilating men and crushing women in its suspicious houses, frequented cabarets and famous casinos. Days passed. Manuel Jacinto Coelho had even forgotten the story of Meia-Noite's death. Work, family, tender Francisco de Assis. The needy and other tasks consumed his hours. And although he wished, he didn't have time to savor a good port wine from Adriano Ramos Pinto or to let a delicious ice-cold Cascatinha beer slide down his throat. The covered guitar was at home, carefully stored. Son of musicians, Manuel, the father, was a conductor, and Rosa, the mother, was a piano teacher. Manuel had inherited the talent of both, as well as their love for music. He dreamed of being able to gather on that ocasión carefree at his home all his musician friends, weekly, in a kind of recital. Certainly, there would be the conductor, Luperce Miranda, Jacob do Bandolim, Ciro Monteiro, Altamiro Carrilho, Odete Amaral, Luiz Americano, the pianist Carolina Cardoso de Menezes, and also Aristides Júnior de Oliveira, Moleque Diabo. Just thinking about him, and the man appeared. Manuel was leaving the lobby of the library on the ground floor of the Itamaraty Palace, where he worked, when he saw Moleque Diabo walking hurriedly, circling the lake and seeking to reach the veranda to look for him. He was nervous, terrified. It could be noted from a distance, through his haggard expression. Unlike previous times, he didn't bring his bandolim, but a newspaper. Upon meeting him, he didn't even greet him. He just said, "Look at the disaster, Manuel. Look, look, look." Not quite understanding what Molek was talking about, Manuel took the newspaper, and there was the news. Meia-Noite died. And more. 3 shots end the life and criminal career of the bravest rogue Lapa ever knew. Meia-Noite is here. Long live Meia-Noite. As soon as he entered the Cabaret Brasil Dourado on the upper floor of the building at number 10, Rua da Lapa, in the late hours of the night, he received a thunderous greeting. Following the "Long live Meia-Noite" were the claps, which surprised and displeased him. This had not been arranged. It was not in his plans, much less to his liking. When he agreed to participate in that party in his honor, as a farewell to the bohemian life, to the Lapa Nights roguery, he made some restrictions. He requested everything be done discreetly, without noise, clamor, or disorder. In truth, he intended to see his friends, embrace them, shake everyone's hand, and personally bid farewell to each one. It would be beautiful, moving, and sincere. He had started a new life, quieter, less risky, dedicated to his wife, focused on home and family. For him, the bohemian life no longer made sense. Everyone agreed. But Falua, a naval sergeant, who was his competitor in the business of selling bullets on trains, was there breaking the agreement, ignoring his considerations, and he was announcing his arrival loudly. "Meia-Noite is here. Long live Meia-Noite." He didn't waste time. Annoyed, he walked towards the man to reprimand him, and he decided he would not stay there nor participate in any party. But as he crossed the hall towards the stairs, he heard the shots. He had been targeted, was wounded. 3 shots hit him, in the belly, chest, and left arm. Another shot ended up hitting the shop assistant, Angelo Milozzi, who was there for fun and had nothing to do with the confusion. Meia-Noite hadn't even glimpsed the man wielding the revolver, shooting him, and much less identified him. He only knew that he was mixed in with a group of other men. Between the hat check and the corridor leading to the room used by the dancers for changing clothes, he wanted to defend himself, retaliate against the aggression. His whole life had been like that. he didn't provoke anyone, but if provoked, he retaliated with double the violence. But at that point, it was impossible. He was bleeding too much, and in severe pain. Great confusion ensued in the cabaret. Clients and employees, men and women oblivious to what was happening, terrified by the shots, tried to run towards the stairs, trying to reach the street. It was panic, a disaster. Many managed, others did not. They ended up trampled and injured. Mayanuat managed to find the strength to also descend. On the street, he sat on the curb and there waited, in silence, for the taxi to the emergency room. On the sidewalk, blood flowing, he remembered Arminda Matos, the woman he had left at home in Piedade, and murmured softly, "Sweet Arminda, I had to argue with her to come and dig my own grave." Arminda didn't want Mayanuat to return to Lapa, but, faced with her imposition, he thought, "A rogue should not be dominated, even when reformed." He argued with her. And now he was there, on his way to the hospital, shot, on the brink of death. He had bet high and lost the last hand. In fact, this would be his last phrase, said to the doctor who was going to operate on him. "I lost the last hand, doctor." What Mayanuat didn't see or come to know was that Arminda, his beloved wife, died with him. The two agonizing, stretched out on the stretchers, still crossed paths in the silent corridors of the hospital, where a piece of pain and suffering of the entire city passes. Distraught with the fight she had with her partner, Arminda concluded that Mayanuat would not abandon bohemianism or roguery. Faced with this certainty, she preferred suicide, taking poison. Rescued, she was also taken to the emergency room, where both met death at the same time. Upon learning of the circumstances of the deaths of Mayanuat and Arminda, Manuel Jacinto Coelho was horrified. A strong wind blew on his back, and again his ears were invaded by the annoying buzz of the poorly tuned radio. He wanted to avoid the sensation from before, but it was impossible. Before losing consciousness completely, he could still hear that samba by Ismael, the same one that played that night at the Bardos Carmelitas. "If you swear that you love me, I can reform, but if it's to pretend, woman, I won't leave the orgy." With eyes swollen, wide open from tears and sleepiness, Aristides Junior de Oliveira, Moleque Diabo, laments, "Manuel, I should have heeded the advice. The tragedy could have been avoided. Now, all that's left for me is to watch over my friend's body at the Capella Fray Fabiano de Cristo, there in Praça da República, and to accompany him, tomorrow, to his final resting place at the San Francisco Xavier Cemetery in Caju." Manuel seemed distant, disconnected, in another world, inattentive to Molek's outpouring. Molek, not understanding what was happening and finding everything very strange, tried to shake him. "Manuel, Manuel, are you sleeping?" "No, Molek," trying to save her. "Open your eyes. You too will have a violent death." 1 year later, the newspapers announced, distraught for having been abandoned by his partner, the dancer Celeste Maria, for whom he was hopelessly in love, Molek Diabo ended up committing suicide. Yesterday morning, after ingesting a heavy dose of formicide, he jumped from the 30th floor of the post office building on Rua 10 de Março, in the center where he worked.